When Sean Dyche was sacked as Burnley manager in April, many of his supporters jumped to his defence. They pointed out the fact that he hadn't been given much in the way of transfer budget since their promotion to the Premier League 6 years ago, and that he was basically being used as a scapegoat by an unambitious board. Well, I'm going to bring Sean Dyche back to the club. I'm going to give him his job back. I'm going to put £1 billion in Burnley's bank account, a massive transfer budget, a massive wage budget, and see what happens in the next 6 years. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Burnley's Billions, a kind of a rebuild video where I go in as Burnley manager, I edit their finances to give them £1 billion in the bank and a massive transfer budget. I bring Sean Dyche back and then I holiday through and see how they get on. In 6 years since Dyche got Burnley promoted to the Premier League, they have battled against relegation most seasons, although they did have one season where they finished high up in the table and qualified for the Europa League, which is a monumental achievement for a club like Burnley. I was one of the people who were really shocked when Dyche was sacked as Burnley manager, to be honest. I don't see that anyone else could come in and do the job that he has done for them. And if they do go down to the Championship, they've only really got themselves to blame. I looked at their ingoings and outgoings or whatever, and I think it works out that their net spend, so their total transfer spend minus what they've received on players, is around about £60 million, which isn't much. In 6 seasons, that's a £10 million net spend a season. So it isn't really a great deal of money. But using this little feature here, the in-game editor, we can edit the club and we can give them £1 billion and we can bring Sean Dyche back. And that is what I'm going to do. Right, so I've stuck £1 billion in Burnley's bank account. I've given them a transfer budget of £500 million. I've given them a wage budget of £2 million a week. And as you can see, I've put Sean Dyche back in charge where he rightfully belongs. What I'm going to do is I'm now going to holiday forward and see how they get on. Right, the first season after the massive cash injection is over and Sean Dyche is still in charge, which is a good sign. Transfer-wise, let's have a look at their transfer history. If we go down to Kian Lafondra, real-life transfers. So Kareem El Hamadi came in on a free transfer at the end of August. Nahuel Molina came in from Udinese for £10.5 million. And that was the only signings before the start of the season. Or before the transfer window closed, sorry, the season had already started by that point. Then in January, Gianluca Lapadula for 3.1 million. Brennan Johnson from Nottingham Forest for 10 mil. Roman Berkey for 4.8 million from Borussia Dortmund. And Antonio Sanabria from Torino for 11 million. So, they spent less than £30 million in January, considering they got a £500 million transfer budget. So still being pretty shrewd in the transfer market is Mr. Dyche. League Cup, they reached a semi-final of the League Cup before losing to Manchester City. And the 5th round of the FA Cup before being knocked out by Arsenal. And in the league, they finished 13th. 13th position, 50 points, only 4 points off of the top 7. So they didn't have a bad window, to be honest. A bad season. Window? No, they didn't have a bad season. But they didn't spend much money. So let's see if they can spend a little bit more money for the second season and do even better. Despite spending quite a lot of money in the transfer windows, Burnley were in a relegation battle again at the end of season 2. As you can see from up there, if you can read it, it says 16th. Sean Dyche still in charge. Competitions. Reached the semi-final of the FA Cup and the quarter-final of the League Cup. So they're still doing quite well in the Cups. Weghorst is a top scorer again. He was a top scorer last season as well. But they finished 16th, only 5 points clear of the relegation zone. So they're not pushing on. And this is despite spending £127 million on players. They brought in Marcel Halstenberg on a free. Guile Rosas from Sporting Gijón, I think that's how you pronounce it, for £22.5 million, rising to 27. Jamal Lascelles for £12 million from Newcastle. Jake Wakeling on a free. Tiani Reinders from AZ for £2.4 million. Myron Boadu from Monaco for £18.75 million. Pablo Mari on a loan from Arsenal. They brought in Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Manuel Lazari from Liverpool in January for a combined total of just over 30 million, about 31 million, I think, in rising fees. Initial of 25.75. So the up to Mari was before the season, in the summer transfer window, and now in January they spent an absolute fortune. Look, Tormina for 17.5 million, Brahima Huatara from Lausanne for 4.5 million. Lucas Moura came in on loan from Tottenham. Ruben Loftus-Cheek was signed for £4.5 million from Chelsea, and Mateus Reis from Sporting for £18 million. So in January they spent 20, 30, 40. Around about 70 million. I think. I can't, my maths isn't great doing really quick maths, but around about 70 million. And they didn't really sell anyone. They only received 1.4 million on players, so their net spend was 125.6 million for the season, and they finished 16th. So they're going to need to do better. If they don't, Sean Dyche might be out of a job again pretty soon. Another season over, and another pretty average performance from Burnley. Having all this money isn't bringing them any success. You see, Sean Dyche is still in charge though, so he hasn't gone just yet. But basically doing the job that he was doing before. So without money, he was mid-table, fighting relegation, whatever. Now, with money, he's fighting relegation, mid-table. But they're doing quite well in the Cups. Transfer history. They received £3.6 million for players. In the summer transfer window, they signed Isaac Shibangu, Lucas Moura and Pablo Mari both came in. They were on loan last season, remember? So they came in on permanence. Edwin Anderson on a free from Chelsea. Anderson Niangbo from Ghent for £13.5 million. Charlie Savage on a free transfer. Walter Benitez for £26 million from Nice. I think that may be the highest amount they've spent so far. And Adil Ayachiche from St Etienne for £5 million. And then on deadline day, Gonzalo Martinez from Paris Saint-Germain for £10.75 million, with rising to 12.75 possibly. Then in the summer, they spent £18.75 million on Lewis Dunk, £975,000 on Max Elaine, £575,000 on Joe Haig, and £10.75 million on Rid van Yilmaz. So their highest was Walter Benitez, £26 million, 31 Argentinian goalkeeper. Not bad, I suppose. He played 34 games in the league, conceded 51, only a 6-point something rating, though 6.79. Not really worth 20 odd million pounds, is he? Competition wise, semi-final of the League Cup again, fourth round of the FA Cup. They've been doing okay in cups, but very, very much nearly meant, and they make it into the first screen. Look, 12th place in the league, 7 points off of 7th, 50 points overall. What's that? 20 points out of the relegation zone, and Weghorst is their top scorer once again. Let's just have a little look. Seeing as we're 3 seasons through, let's have a little look at who's doing what. Palace relegated again. So the first season was this one, Man City champions. Second season, Liverpool champions, and then Man City have regained their title, 104 points. Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City. So Chelsea missing out on the top 4 there. Man United and Arsenal both missed out on the top 4 in the second season, and Arsenal missed out on the top 4 in the third season. No one really breaking in, so it's the same teams year after year, really. Let's go and have a look at what happens for the next 3 years. Right, the 6 years are up, and nothing much has really happened. I was hoping that Burnley would either get relegated and like it had proved that money doesn't actually change anything, or that they would storm to a cup victory or Champions League qualification or whatever. But as it turns out, they're just a mid-table side. As you can see, Sean Dyche is still there. Basically, about 15 years in total. Sean Dyche has been the manager and hasn't won a carrot. He hasn't won anything. If we look, we'll go back to the 24-25 season, because we went to there before where they finished 12th. Basically, he's established them as a mid-table side. A 9th place finish in 24-25, 7 points clear, 7 points away from 7th. Another 9th place finish, getting a bit closer, 5 points away from 7th. And then they drop back 12th place, sort of like proper like smack bang in the middle, look, 14 points away from the top 7 and 14 points clear of the relegation zone. So they're basically a mid-table side. As far as cups are concerned, if we go all the way back, this season they went out in the third round of both, to Newcastle and to Bournemouth. Last season was fourth round of both. And the season before they reached the semi-final of the League Cup and the quarter-final of the FA Cup. And transfer-wise, they've continued spending a lot of money. What was that? That was 22-23. So we've seen that one. We've seen that one. The next was 24-25. So they spent 72 million and brought in 26 million. Free transfer Oygun from Fenerbahce. 13 million on Ilian Brassier from Brest. 13.5 million on Bruno Costa from Porto. 32.5 million on Ismaila Sarr from Tottenham. 10.75 million for Saeed Benrahma from West Ham. Walter Riverola from River Plate for 2.2 million, and Luca Barrington on a free from Man City the season after. £138 million. So finishing 9th in 24-25, it must have given them a little bit of a kick up the backside to say, come on, let's go for this. 138 mil spent. Ante Rebic on a free. Nathan Teller, 21.5 million. King Lewis Potter, 9.75. We've got there Axel Twanzebe, 35 million up front, possibly rising to 42 million from Man United. 17.75 on Paolo Bernardo from Benfica. Juan Bernet from Paris Saint-Germain. And Nicola Varela from Paris Saint-Germain. For a total of about 26 million. And 19 million pounds on Tyrick Mitchell from Crystal Palace. Surprisingly, Tyrick Mitchell was still at Palace until June 2026 in this game, because in real life he's one of Palace's star players, but in this world Palace keep getting relegated. So they spent all that money and they still only finished 9th. And then this season gone, the spending has dropped. £45.5 million spent. They sold players for a total of 11.5 million. Dario Kruger came from Boca for 1.6 mil. Fabio Akari 550,000. Chris Mepham for 13.5 million. Roberto Alvarado for 18.75 million, and Yuri Alberto for 11 million. Didn't I see them sign Roberto Alvarado before? Is that someone? I know it was Riverola. Similar name, innit? Yeah, so basically, they've spent an absolute fortune over the course of the last 6 seasons. And they are a mid-table side. So, didn't get to see all that money turn them into world beaters or anything. If we look at their current senior squad, I mean, they've got players like Dwight McNeil, Nicola Ravela, Paolo Bernardo that are worth quite a bit of money. Myron Boadu, Mateus Cunha. He looks like a good player. 28-year-old Brazilian international. Guile Rosas from the Spanish 27-year-old's worth quite a bit of money. So they've spent money and they've got a team of players who Weghorst is still there at the age of 34. He's been moved. He's made available for the under-23s now. He's reaching the end of his career. So after that experiment, 6 years. So it was a 6th season in real life of being in the Premier League when Sean Dyche got the sack. They hadn't spent hardly any money, and Sean Dyche's supporters basically said that was the reason why they were facing relegation battle again. Well, I put £1 billion in their account. I gave them a £500 million transfer budget, a £2 million a week wage budget, and it's managed to establish them as a mid-table side in the Premier League. I mean, they haven't fought a relegation battle for the last few seasons, and who knows? They could probably now push on with the squad of players they've got. They'll probably push on and possibly go on and do more. If you're a Burnley fan, would you be happy with spending all that money just to become a mid-table side? I mean, 2 9th place finishes and then a 12th is a little bit of a drop for a 9th to 12th, but you're a mid-table side. Top half finish for a couple of seasons on the spin and done quite well in the cups. So I'm not sure how I would feel if I was a Burnley fan, but if you're a Burnley fan, how would you feel if that happened in 6 years' time? Well, it's not actually, it's 5 years' time now because we're in May 2022 in real life as it is. So in 5 years' time, you're a mid-table Premier League side. You haven't fought a relegation battle. You've been not far off of the European places and you've done quite well in the cups. I suppose you could be quite happy, I suppose. Right, that's going to wrap up this video. It was a little experiment I wanted to do. I've read a lot about people saying that the reason why Burnley have struggled is because they haven't spent any money. Well, they've spent an absolute fortune in the last 6 years in this simulation and become a mid-table side. So it's just proof that money will not buy you everything you want. It may do in the long run, and it worked for Chelsea and Man City, but it hasn't worked so far for Burnley. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like. Comment below, let me know if you liked it or not, because I'll do similar videos in the future if people like it. It's a one-off experimental video that I'm doing. I didn't want to do just a basic rebuild where I go and sign players, see how they, and then simulate a season, blah, 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 blah. That's just basically copying other people, and I didn't want to do that. So I've done something a little bit different. I've put another manager in charge and I've simulated to see how they got on. I've got a couple of ideas for other teams as well. So if you did like it, let me know and I will make other videos similar in the future. But for now, that is going to wrap up this video. Again, thank you very, very much for watching. Hopefully you'll join me again soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.